All right, make sure you download, if you did not complete the exercise with me last class, please download the files on the chat panel. And we can get started from there. Okay, this was the site, the share site with established coordinates as we want. What we're going to do now is pick it up from the previous exercise and synchronize the shared coordinates with the structural model. So open the structural model that I provided in the data sets. So this structural model also has a different location of the project base point and the survey point. And if you are a structural engineer, you want to make sure that your discipline is aligned with the site model. And so going back to the instructions, we link the site plan, align, rotate, and move it at X, Y, and Z, align it with the building footprint, and then we acquire the shared coordinates. All right, so that's exactly what we're going to do now. This is the model. We're going to now link the site model. So you go to the insert, manage links. You know what? I'm going to make my, there you go. Go to insert, manage links. Then we're going to link our Revit model. So we're going to add a new link. And let's bring the share site model, either the one you created last class or the one I provided in the downloaded files. And we are going to do it origin to origin, which is fine. This is the first time the site is getting modeled. So you can do either center to center or origin to origin. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we need to rotate it and align it where it needs to be. And we hit OK here. I am on the site plan, and let's do zoom extend, ZE. That's a shortcut that you want to remember, ZE, zoom extend. So ZE, and that is the site. And the site has the look, it discloses the intersection of grid 1 and A. So all I need to do is select this and move it. Use the move command. I'm going to move it from the from the link project base point, and I'm going to snap it to the A and 1. So move from the intersection of this point. It will actually pre-highlight the intersection. And I may need to do it in 2 operations. No, I can do it in 1. And I'm going to snap it to the intersection of A and 1. I can type SI on the fly. So when you do snaps, you can type it on the fly. You probably know this already. SI means snap intersection. SE is endpoint. SM is midpoint. SQ, it's a snap to the quarter of a circle or of an arc. All right, so I'm gonna type SI here, and that's going to snap to it's going to go directly to the intersection of the grids. And if these, I don't have to do any rotation now because the origin of this model and the origin of the site were similar. But you know, there are examples in which you will have also to rotate it. So this is good in X, Y, but now I need to check the elevation. Let's forget this. We are doing this operation in 3D. So I'm going to switch to the south elevation in the project browser. And let's make sure that the link align with the ground level. So the link has this ground level at 64 feet above sea level. So you're going to select the link and then move it. Or I can use the align command. That's probably easier. Align command. Select the link and hit align. Align to the ground level, to this concrete level 1, the link ground level. There you go. This model should be coordinated in X, Y, and Z. I'm going to switch to 3D view. I'm going to tile it, WT. And notice how the site plan is where it needs to be in X, Y, and Z. All I need to do is establish shared coordinates. So we acquire the coordinates. The link is going to acquire the coordinates. No, our model is going to acquire the coordinates of the link. So what's going to happen is that the shared coordinate is going to move right here. Then Revit, the file is going to acquire the project north declination and the project base point elevation. So select the link and then scroll on the link properties, find the property that's called share site under the other. And then you'll be presented with the share coordinates dialog box. I need to acquire the coordinates from the link into my model. And check what happens with the points. They're going to align right after I click reconcile. So acquire, then hit reconcile. There you go. Now the two survey points are in exact the same rotation, the same location, the same rotation in project north. The project base point are not aligned, but the project base point does have information about the elevation and the true north. That information was brought into. And just to make it consistent, I'm just gonna drag the project base point to align it with the site and save it. So now this file is has the proper share coordinates, and it's ready to be cross-linked via share parameters. I also have the mechanical drawing, but because of time, I'm not going to do it. If you guys want to do it, go ahead. You can do that after class. But the site model, the architectural model, and the structural model now share coordinates. So I'm going to, any question here? We did this the last class. Okay, here's another piece of advice. So this is the, or this, let's say a tip and trick. Notice that when I brought this link, the CAD file, the original CAD file didn't travel with it. There's a benefit of doing that in that the geometry associated with the CAD file doesn't impact the performance of the consultant file. But sometimes if you want to have a single view that references the site model, you can display the CAD file from the link via a link view. And I don't know if you've done this before in Revit, but here's how that's done. I have the site plan for the structural model. And let's say for some reason, the structural needs to display some site information. So rather than importing the CAD file or linking the CAD file into this model, you can display it via linked view. And to do that, you go into visibility graphics, so type VG. Bringing it up here. So open VG, then go to Revit links. And then in the display settings, it says by host view. And what that means is that it's inheriting the properties of the parent of the host file. The host file is the parent file. So when you click this, everything is grayed out because the object styles that are applied to the link are driven by this host. But you can say, okay, for this particular view, I want to display the site view from the site plan. So when you select here by link view, this is the list of all the plans, all the views in the site plan. And you can say, okay, I want to display the site information from the link in this particular view. You hit OK, hit apply, hit OK. And now this is a view. This is a view of the CAD file in the link, but that link is not brought into your project. Is not increasing the performance of your model. It's only visible in this view, and you don't have to carry this CAD file around anymore. It's living on the site plan. If you need to adjust the view, open the site plan, modify it, make it look beautiful. Okay, this is in color, right? Like if I want to change the color properties, I could do it in the site plan and then prepare a dedicated view that can be shared with consultants. Consultants sometimes have needs of displaying site information, and this will be an effective way to do that without bringing or increasing the risk of damaging your file with CAD imports. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is nice.
Yeah. Link visibility graphics again.
Yeah.
Link by view.
Link by view.
Link by link view, and then you select. It will present you with all the floor plans visible from the site. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and let's go back to the site plan, and let's see how everything is assembled together. So I'll go ahead and open the library share site. This is the file that we finished last class. You can open the one I just shared with you. And just to prove my point of shared coordinates, zoom extent again. I'm going to switch to a 3D view. And then I'm going to link both the architectural model and the structural model using shared coordinates. And they should fall exactly in the same place. So Again, I am in the library share site file. Just open it and switch to a 3D view. The 3D view is the 3D. You can access it in this icon right here. And then go to the insert tab. Where's my insert tab? Manage links. Okay, insert tab, manage links. And then in Revit, I'm going to start with a structural. So I just did the structural here. Make sure you save it. The structural file, and then you choose by share coordinates. Then hit open, hit OK. And there you go. The file is exactly where it's supposed to be. It has the right elevation. These lines, I mean, the projection, the building footprint are at elevation 0. That's why they appear like they're below. But the contours elevation is where it needs to be. Now let's bring the architectural model. So you go insert, manage links, hit add, and then select the architectural model, library link architecture. And again, in the positioning, make sure you select by share coordinates. Moving forward, you just use share coordinates to cross-link everything. And then hit OK. Yes. Oh, I needed to link the architectural, sorry. Add the architectural via share coordinates. And there you go. It falls exactly in the same place. I didn't have to like trash them up. And then
I keep getting an error message. The link cannot be relocated because it's loaded into another open document.
Oh, make sure you close just keep the share site open and go ahead and close the other files. You cannot have a link open and the source file open at the same time. So make sure you close all the files and open only the share site, and then link it. Insert, manage link. Any other questions? Did it work?
I had to reopen Revit in order. I'm still working on it, but go ahead. Don't worry about me.
Yeah. So you will open the share site model, and then you go insert manage links, and link the architectural and the structural in the site model using share coordinates, and they should fall in the right spot. Any other question? Okay, so another note is that you could detach the links and then reattach them, and the share coordinates are always going to get remembered. So if I go to manage link here, for example, and I remove this, I remove both links, you would think, oh, the share coordinates are stable. No, you receive a new version of the. That's what usually you do with consultants. You send and exchange models every so often. If you receive a new model from your consultant, just reload it, add the architectural using share coordinates, and the shared coordinates will persist even if the files are detached. There you go. And I'm going to repeat it again. I'm going to bring the structural again, add the structural by shared coordinates, and hit OK. And the same happen if you are in the architectural model and you want to link the site model, you can just use shared coordinate. If you're in the structural model and want to link the architectural model, then just use shared coordinates, because all these three files are sharing exactly the same anchor point. Okay, so I'm going to save this file, the library shared site with the two buildings on it. And let's shift the discussion to talk about site surfaces. Any question before we shift topics? All right, so before we get started, all the tools to create representations of a site are under the model panel in the site, in the massing and site tab. Before we start building topo surfaces and going into the different ways of creating topo surfaces, we have to define the site settings. And the site settings are nested on this little tiny icon. I bet you never used this before, but under the model site, there's this little arrow pointing to the lower right that opens the site settings. This is the site settings dialog box. And these are ways to represent the different contours of a site. And so at the very, very basic, contours are defined by a set of intervals. And so this checkbox that says here is that if this panel was empty, if this additional contour was empty, there's nothing here, intervals of contours will be displayed every 10 feet. And then where that interval start, that interval start on elevation 0. And so what that means that the system, the Revit is going to track where sea level 0 is at, and from there is going to start building inner contours every 10 feet. So this is the baseline. This information here is the baseline. Now, if you want to have different contours be represented differently, and sometimes we do that in site design, you have primary contours, secondary contours. Sometimes you have a special type of contour that indicates, for example, the 100-year flood elevation, for example, and that's a very thick red line. You can actually define a value for a specific type of elevation. And so everything that is next to everything that is below here, these are alternate or secondary ways of display lines. So you can build your contour types and associate with the start and end. That means this defines the range at which this particular subcategory of contours will be visible. You can say, okay, the primary contours are going to start at elevation 0. They're going to end at elevation 100. And the primary are going to happen every 5 feet. And then you can have secondary contours and say, well, for the secondary ones, they're also going to have a start point and end point, but the secondary is every half a feet or every feet. And then the subcategory column that you see in this panel is the line weight. And these are defined in object styles. So if you go to the topo surface object styles, actually, no, this is the light settings. Inside the line settings and global size light settings, you can have subcategories associated with the contours. And you can change like the line weight associated with that. You can insert or delete subcategories in those settings. The other part of these settings is the section graphics. And the section graphics, it means how deep, what is the material that you want to display at section cuts. So how is the toposurfer going to be displayed below the surface? And this is usually a representation of site earth that's a texture with a pattern that represents the earth. You can change that, by the way. You can make it something different here. And then elevation of push base. That means if you cut a section and the section is cutting through the site or the topo surface, the material earth is going to be displayed from the cut line to 10 feet below. It's how deep underneath the surface this material will be displayed. And then the other settings, this relate more to the type of units used to place property lines. And so when we build property lines and we use the legal system of describing lots and boundaries, then you can choose either degrees from north-south, for example, 100 feet at 10 degrees from the north or 25 degrees from the south. That's a method of, those are topographic units. And you have 2 or 3 different choices here. And then the units in general for this part of the world is always degrees, minutes, and seconds. So we start by setting these are project settings, and you want to define them before you build the topo surfaces. Otherwise, they won't be able. Once a topo surface is created, it will inherit the settings, and you cannot change it afterward. There you go. That's what the Poche base means. All right, and then we're going to get into the different ways of creating topo surfaces. One is by picking, and the other is by points, and the other is by 3D data, that import instance. And we're going to do that very quickly. Okay, so let's jump back into Revit. Any questions? Okay, so I am in the library share site. There is a CAD model brought into this project. This CAD file has layers that represent contours. When I open that file, this is, just open quickly here. In the AutoCAD, I'm just going to investigate the interval bit of these ones. And so if I recall correctly, they were every 4 feet. And so in AutoCAD, all I need to do is look at the properties of the contour elevations. So when I select this contour, this is elevation 70. And then when I look at the other one, this is elevation 72. Notice how the primary contours are every 10 feet. This is probably 60. This is 50. Oh no, so the primary contours, we're gonna do it every 10. I think I'm missing one here. We're gonna do it every 10, the primary, and then the secondary is every 2 feet. And each of them is gonna have a separate line weight representation. And then for the low, what's the start point of the contour and the end point of the contours? I mean, you can investigate what is the lowest elevation and the highest elevation. So for this particular drawing, the elevations appear to be somewhere between 50 and 80. And just to be safe, I'm just going to say that the intervals start from 0 and end at 100, just to have a push of values. If I don't define the range wide enough, and there are some contours in this project, they are not going to display in the drawing. All right, so I'm in Revit here, and let's open the settings. So you go under the Manage tab, no, the Massing and Site, and then under the Model side, look at this little icon. It's the arrow pointing down. This open the site settings. And so it's pretty empty. It doesn't have a lot of things. But at the minimum, at the base level, we have intervals running every 2 feet. And they're going to start at elevation 0. That's the baseline. And if I don't do anything, I mean, this could be deleted. At the base, this is going to create a topo surface with contours every 2 feet. But in addition to this, I want to split the representation of the contours between primary and secondary. If I want to do that, then I insert new rows in this dialog box. So the first row, it says, the first thing you need to do is it going to be a single contour? If this is in the case of, for example, you want to say the maximum, the 100 years flood elevation, for example, that's a single value. And you can associate a subcategory. But the first thing I do is do multiple values, and I can say the primary contours are gonna happen every 10 feet, and they start at elevation 0, and they're gonna stop at elevation 100. So every 10 feet, the primary contours, which are bolder and continuous, are gonna be displayed there. I'm gonna insert another one, and these are the secondary ones. So the range type, again, it's multiple values. And the thing here to be careful is that you want to start with the range column first to have access to the start and stop. So if it was me, these values should go first so that you're sure that the multiple values will enable the start and the stop cell. So the secondary contours start at elevation 0. Also, they're going to stop at elevation 100, and they're going to be every 2 feet. And they're going to inherit the graphic properties of object styles, secondary contours. And you can continue add, like sometimes landscape architects, instead of having a continued line, they want to display dash line. That is a property of the line styles, and you can go back to object styles and change this as needed. But I'm just going to stick with that and hit apply and then hit OK. To show you where those styles are, I think you go to the Manage tab, Additional Settings, Line Styles. And here, it's not on the line style. So then it's under object styles. So Manage tab, Object Styles. and then go to topography. And here are your, these are the values of the of those lines. The primary contours will have a projection and a cut line of 6, is very thick. And the secondary lines are going to be thin. I could change it to gray. You know, I'm going to do like a dark gray instead of solid. So I'm going to pick the gray here. You can also do it dotted if you want. Or if you want, for example, if you want the 100-year contour, you can create new subcategories in object styles. You can say on a new subcategory of the topography is the 100-year flood of the elevation. And so this is going to be red. And it's going to be thick, like 5. And it's going to be continuous. And you can add additional subcategories as needed. And then that category is going to be visible in that drop-down list in the settings. Okay, so manage object styles, model objects tab, and go to the topography, and that's how you can access the graphic properties of those contours. Hit OK. And I think we're ready to create the contours. So I'm going to switch to the plan view in the site in the 3D view. I'm going to show you the manual method of doing contours, and then we're going to do the automatic method. So these CAD file, this DWG, this could be an image that has been scaled. For example, when you don't have topographic data in CAD format and all you're given, for example, it's an old site plan with contours from 20 years ago in a TIFF file. You can bring that information and underlay under the building. Revit is starting in 2022. You can now link PDFs. So if you go to the Insert tab, you can either import or link PDF. And if this PDF is coming from what's printed directly from AutoCAD or from an authoring file, then the vectors contained by the PDF are snappable. And so you can link a PDF, scale it. You have to scale it by a factor. Usually you can use a reference line in order to do that. And then you can trace each of those lines using topography points and recreate it from there. That's one method when you have absolutely no information coming from CAD. But in our case, we have a CAD file with 3-dimensional contours, and that's what you want. You want a file that has contours in 3D. The other thing you need to understand what layers these contours are at, because when we create a topo surface, we need to indicate what are the layers that contain the contours. And a quick way to sort information about a CAD file is using this query button. So what you do is you select the CAD file and use the query command in the contextual tab. And then you can start clicking each of these lines. And the important part is going to disclose the layer. And so this is telling you that the contour is in the C topo minor. And then if I continue investigating, this is C topo major. So there are 2 layers that contains are holding the information about the contours.
Where's the query button? I can't find that. Is that
Yeah,
what?
you select the link, the CAD file.
Oh, you have to select the link. I see.
Yeah, and it's going to appear in the upper right side. It's a contextual command. It only appears
Okay.
when you select it. And then click on the elevation. You get information about what kind of object it is, what kind of layer it is at. In fact, you know, it's there's something here called hiding view. And what that's going to do is going to freeze the entire layer. So sometimes instead of opening CAD and find what the layer is at, you can actually hide in view here, and then the entire layer is switched off. This is the equivalent of going into visibility graphics, then go into Revit links, no, import the CAD categories, open the DWG, and you see how the C-topo minor has the switch off. You can do this manually, but sometimes the nomenclature of the layers are not that obvious to you what they mean. And so if you want to very quickly freeze things in Revit, you can do this with the query command. Again, you select the CAD file, use the query, investigate what the layer is, and then you can hide it. There's another one option, it's called delete. Delete actually is actually preventing the layer from be visible anywhere in the drawing. It doesn't go into the CAD file and delete that layer. It doesn't do that. It's just stop Revit's ability to retrieve information about that layer. And so I wouldn't recommend deleting it. It's better like freeze it, hide in view, because you cannot undo. Once it's deleted, it's deleted. You have to, I guess, detach the CAD file and reattach it for those deleted layers to reappear. Okay, so I know that I have CAD information that I can now translate into Revit objects using the topography. And I know the layers already, C major, C topo major, and C topo minor. So I'm gonna switch to a 3D view. One thing I wanna say is that mind the phasing, because these are existing. I mean, these are existing. This is an existing topography, right? And so in Revit, you can technically do grading if you use phases. So after we create the grading, we're going to associate it to the phase called existing. So let's start. So I'm on the 3D view. I'm looking at my building. I'm going to go to the collaborate tab. No, manage and site, sorry, manage and site. And select topo surface. I'm in the library share site 3D view. Open the topo surface. And then you're going to use the method that says create from import. And then it display you with a drop down that says display select import instance. You want to select that option. We're going to select the CAD file after this. So I'm going to select the CAD file here. And then Revit present me with a list of all the layers contained by the CAD file. By default, all the layers would be used to draw contours, but I already know what those are. So I'm going to check those off. I'm going to check all. I'm going to check none. Check none is going to switch all the layers off. And then I'm just going to bring the topo major and the topo minor. I don't care about the other information in the CAD file. And then I just hit OK. And there it goes. It gives me a display of all the points, the primary and the secondary ones.
So none of that worked for me. I don't, you hit create from import and then select import instance. And then you should get that drop down, but I didn't see the drop down.
I'm going to do it again.
Okay.
So you select go to the measurement site,
Right.
topo surface, create from import, select import instance.
Yes.
Now select the CAD file.
Oh, then you have to select the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I keep not doing. All right.
Select it on the
Got
screen.
it. Got it. That's what I missed. Thank you.
And then check none. And just check the topo major and minor. And the distribution of points is based on the settings that we did previously. Just click the green checkbox, and it has the line weight that we associated with in object styles. So I'm going to change this to shaded. And there you go. It was super simple to create. If you have a CAD file that has the contours in 3D, which most survey nowadays will do. Any question?
Yeah, one quick question. How much cleanup did you have to do on this CAD file? Make sure all those lines are not extending beyond and inboard.
I think primarily what you need to go is open the CAD file and make sure that the contours are in a dedicated layer. Most surveyors are diligent enough to provide you with a file with a good set of layers. And if they are not, I think your job is going to be to make sure that you isolate all that information and place it in a single layer that you can retrieve in Revit. An example, sometimes this is coming from MicroStation and they export it in layer 0 and everything is layer 0. And not all that information is relevant for what you need to do. And so you'll have to segment the CAD information into appropriate layers that can be converted into the topography. It's just isolating and then these lines, typically it's a polyline. If they are coming from Civil 3D, they will show as an individual line. But even if this polyline was exploded, Revit, what it's going to do is just grab the pointing from the polygon start and end point. It doesn't care about the line itself. And so in Revit, what matters is the endpoints of all these lines. So I didn't have to make sure that all these lines are connected or that they are in a closed loop. In fact, sometimes pieces of this information could be missing, and that's okay, because what matters is the endpoints. And those points are the ones that get translated into the CAD file. And so making sure that the information is segmented correctly in Revit is something you have to visually check. And then the other thing is that I explained about the process of cleaning the model before get linked, but that's I think we covered that already. Get rid of layers that you don't need, or floating information that's far away from the site, or empty attributes that may impact the performance of the file in Revit. that need to take care. That's something that needs to happen with any CAD file, no matter whether it's a survey or it's a floor plan or it's a 3D model from ArchiCAD. We always need to make sure that it's compatible with Revit and it doesn't go beyond the 20-mile geometry extent. That makes sense?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the how it looks like. The material, it's the reason it looks this color is because the site category in Revit has a default material, and you can actually change that. Like if you go to manage object styles, then you go to T for topo surface topography. Notice that the material that says earth, I don't have a grass material here, but you can easily associate it with other material as needed. We're going to talk more about materials in another class, but that's why it looks this color. It's based on the material. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you is that this topo surface, notice that it was created in new construction. That's not right. The topo surface is an existing condition, so make sure that you associate where it needs to be. Because, and when you change the face of topo surface, then the face filter will kick in. The filter says filter show all, and that's why it looks gray. You can say show complete, and it will be by show complete filter will display everything by object style. But I'm going to leave it as show. Yeah, show all. Any question before we move forward? Anybody fall behind? Anybody need me to repeat anything? Okay, under the massing and site tab, there are other tools that I'm going to quickly address. One of them is the building path. Right now, if I look at this very closely, I notice how the site topo is like getting inside of the building, right? Because we haven't graded the site yet. And so Revit has something that's called the building path, which provide a flat surface for the building outline. And you have to assign it to a certain elevation. The paths are based on the project levels. And remember, in this project, I have the ground level and the sea level. So if I need to have a pad at a specific elevation, I should create a new level and say that's ground level. In this particular example, my pad is going to be at the ground level. And I can build it directly from here. And so I do have some lines that are going to use as a reference. Those are these lines here. I'm going to use the lines like that are lying below the site plan in order to build the pad. So I'm going to switch to the site view. In the site view, I'm going to temporarily switch off my links. So go to visibility graphics, VG, go to Revit links, and disable the visibility of the links. and then switch your view to wireframe. This is gonna display all the objects that are lying below. Again, switch to the site floor plan, open visibility graphics, go to the Revit links and disable the view of the links. And then switch your graphic style to wireframe. And this is gonna give me access to the building boundary that I'm gonna assume it's the building footprint as well. So to create a pad, you go into the mezzanine site, building pad, you switch to sketch mode, and you're gonna use sketch lines to create the boundary of that pad. The pad is associated with, can be associated, it's going to be associated with a level. And notice that you need to watch what level this is associated with. Right now it says sea level because the site plan is associated with sea level, but you really want to associate with the ground level. And I also want the pad to be 6 inches below, because I don't want the pad to overlap with the ground level floor. So I'm going to say -6 inches below the ground level. That's where the pad is going to be. And then I use the pick line tool to create the pad. The pick line tool is the green line with the arrow, and just trace, just pick those lines. And then hit the green checkbox. And that should be it. Now, when I switch to the 3D view, notice how now the topography is no longer interfering with any interior space. To look at the pad, I'm going to, again, switch off the links in visibility graphics. This is what a pad looks like. I'm going to switch this to show complete. So Revit carves the surface of the topo surface and builds a pad object. So this is actually a pad object. As an object, it also has a structural, it has 1 feet in thickness. You may choose to use this in your construction documentation or not. In my opinion, pads are not very useful because it creates an alternate representation of a floor. And in future versions of Revit, this feature will disappear, just to give you a heads up on what's coming. So the pad, it's also a subcategory. You can assign a specific view properties as needed. All right, so that's you can argue that, you know, it's that's not really how sites are built, and that you really need to like grade the corners. And you can actually do that in Revit, but it's going to be a manual process. A manual process in that you need to build a grading by points, and changing points, it's a manual process. And so you will be adding points with specific elevations, and that's going to start modifying the site as needed. Let's do an example of that. Let's say, so this is a road, and let's say that next to this building there is a, well, let's say in this part of the project, there is a parking lot, a flat parking lot. And we can do that very quickly using grading regions. So a graded region, it preserves it's like we're starting to use top points to modify the surface, but using faces. So you have a existing face, a new face, and then Revit can even calculate the total cut and fill volumes, if that's information that it will be useful for construction. So I'm going to switch to the top view here. And let me show you quickly how that could work. All right, so it's going to be a small parking lot on this wing of the building. And I'm going to use graded regions. And so you make sure first that the surface is assigned to the existing face. This is imperative. Select the topo surface and make sure that the face created is the existing one. Then select, I'm going to switch my face filter to show previous and new. Okay, and then I go back into the massing site, and then I start graded region. And a graded region, it's basically two topo surfaces, an existing condition and a new condition. A new topo surfaces is created on top of the other ones. And you will have access, you can edit the new topo surface with new points. And so by comparing the existing with the new, then Revit calculates fill regions, fill and volumes of fill. And so I'm going to choose this one that says create a new topo surface exactly like the existing one. So right now it's not obvious to you, but there are two topo surfaces, one on top of another one. And then these, when you select it, you can start making changes. You can start accessing the points of the topo surface. And let's say all these points needs to be at a same elevation. Let's say that this elevation is going to be 60. Let's assume it's going to be 58 throughout. So all you need to do is grab all these points and change the elevation to 58. And so I started to make changes to the new topo surface. And then I can start placing more points and say, okay, a point, elevation 58, place points on surface with an absolute elevation of 58. And these additional points, I'm starting to like carve the surface. More points you place, the more accurate this is going to be. And right now, all these points are 58, and I'm just like opening this space for additional for a flat road or a flat surface. And if I want to do this like in real construction, then I'll have to start taking into consideration the different elevations of the surface. So it will be 58.2, 0.3, 0.4 different. Is not the most intuitive way of modeling, I have to agree.
What's the one and the A have to do with anything?
No, this is the text that is coming from
Oh, okay, never mind.
from the grids.
Right.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with it. So I'm editing this as needed. You know, I'm adding just points. Elevation 58. I'm assuming the parking lot is all flat. And then I just click the green checkbox at the end. And so when I switch this to 3D, not that obvious, but that's a flat piece of land there. And in fact, now when you select the topo surface, it's going to start reporting because what is the net and net cut and fill. Notice this information right here. It's now reporting cut and fill information because you have two topo surfaces living on top of each other, sharing the same space. Graphically, I think I can improve this by showing previews and demo, I think. No, previews. Yeah, demo and new. It just showed me what are the parts of the this is the cut area, basically. This is the volume that has been removed from the surface. So I'm going to return this to show all. When I do this show all, notice how in dash line is the new grade. And then this is gray, in gray color, you will see where it was before. And so you can see how the what was before and what was after. Any question?
I noticed when I moved one of the grade dots that the other side of the road or the other side of the contour kind of moved relative to it.
Yeah, because Revit start doing this triangulation to make sure that all the points connect in a single mesh. And so it needs to, sometimes it has to modify adjacent surfaces in order to create these triangles. In fact, if we wanna see the triangulation, you go visibility graphics and you go T topo surface, and here is triangulation edges. That is the mesh that Revit creates, and then each point represents edit point, and there are two meshes here, the existing one and the new one. The new one is the one in black. The existing one is the one in gray. And so, and then the difference between them is what you see in red. So some of them are, the red thing is cut, and then the gray thing is fill. And basically when we edit the topo surface, we're actually accessing those points and modifying one by one. Now, this workflow, it's not perfect, I have to agree, because there's a lot of manual work and a lot of guesswork, in particular if you're trying to make quick changes in conceptual design. In this year, in Revit 2024, we are going to be presenting customers with a big overhaul of site design features. I cannot disclose a lot because it hasn't been It will be announced later this year. But it's really going to change how we do topo surfaces with this new release. So just stay tuned. A couple of months more before 2024 hits here. So I'll go here, topography, disable the triangulation edges.
So what happens if you screwed up on the overlay topography and you want to revert back to the original?
So if you made a selection of elements here, notice how there are two topographies and there's one civil engineer. So you can delete the one topography and start the grading again, and that's going to erase everything you've done so far. Or you can undo. I'm going to select this. I know this is the new construction one. That is the one I just added. When I delete this one and the face filter, I'm going to change it to show complete. So, oh no, if I delete, see the filter, show complete. I think I thought there was a way to like break that link apart, but apparently not.
No way to uncouple them.
No, I think you have to undo.
You basically need to reset and undo.
Yeah, I don't think there is undo grading. There's nothing. These two are behaving like if they were coupled.
How did you get the face filter? Or I can't seem to do that.
Make sure you have nothing selected. You are in the 3D view. And then scroll down to the bottom of the 3D properties and you get the face filter.
Okay. Oh, I meant the filter where you saw there's two topos.
Oh, okay. You do a crossing selection, and you see there's a filter here.
Okay. Oops. There it is. Got it.
And there are two topographies, one on top of another one. One is the new and the existing. And I thought, okay, if we remove one of them, I'm left with the original one. But apparently, graphically, they are connected. So I'll have to undo to answer the original question. I have to undo, or I have to delete the topography and rebuild it anew. In a couple of years ago, we also released the link topography. So link topography only works with projects on the cloud, and it allow civil engineers and architects working in tandem in Autodesk Docs. It allows civil engineers to publish the surface of a civil 3D in a format that can be linked into Revit. For that to work, the project needs to be hosted on the cloud, and then the civil engineer and the architect needs to be entitled with cloud Autodesk Docs. And then from Civil 3D, the civil engineer can generate a theme surface, which is exactly the same as a topo surface. and then share it with the architects. And when you link topography, you're going to link that version of the civil's drawing without all the CAD crap that comes with it. And so whenever the civil updates its files, it just publishes the surface, and all the recipient, all we do as a recipient is the topo surface, and we don't receive any of the CAD information with it. Some projects love that because then it makes the site flow very smooth between civil and architects. It really means that the engineer need to work in tandem with you and understand how it's done. A lot of them don't know how to do it. There's a lot of tutorials for civil engineers on how to create, how to link topography. Civil 3D Revit. And again, this is not a class about civil 3D, but if you work with your civil engineer, you can ask them that instead of sending you a very big CAD file, that they could just provide you with topography, and it will be leaner and easier to share.
Is that part of Revit Civil?
This is part of Civil 3D. Yeah, Civil 3D has
Is Civil 3D is Revit or AutoCAD?
Civil 3D, it's an AutoCAD-based solution for civil engineers.
Civil engineers, okay. So that spits out Revit Revit file, yeah.
So
okay.
in Civil, this is what your engineer needs to do. It needs to create a topography in Civil 3D and publish the surface to docs.
Docs.
Yeah. This file is going to appear in docs, and then you link it. And because once it's a live link, so every time it gets replaced, it automatically flows into your project. If you ever need this workflow, I can share it here on the chat panel, and know what to ask to your civil engineer. Say, hey, I'm working in BIM 360. You're part of the team. You have entitlements. Instead of sending me your complex CAD file, just publish the topo surface so I can link it, and then it will come in the right place. And you guys don't have Civil 3D, and I'm not an expert in Civil 3D either. But if there are workflows there that allow us to align the work more efficiently.
Yeah, that's a helpful tip.
Yeah. And it's part of your, it comes with your entitlements with BIM 360 or BIM Collaborator Pro. So as long as these two disciplines are part of the same project, working in the same team, then this functionality it's available. All right, I have 10 minutes left. I want to get to a couple of more features. I talk about grading and how grading will display existing and new conditions. Under the massing and site, you can also label contours. So massing and site label contours, it's just a tag. See, there it is. The scale I have is too small, but I increase it to 130. Change the scale to 180. Again, architecture, massing and site, label contours. I'm going to do another piece here, here to here. In previous versions of Revit, some of these tags appear like rotated 180 degrees, and we couldn't do anything about it. That was fixed in the latest release of Revit. Like now the annotation is always readable, no matter how you trace the line.
If you rotate this drawing around, do they flip or?
Yes, like they are dynamic labels now.
Does it work in 3D as well?
I don't think so. You see how it's grayed out. I think it's a view specific representation. It's like tagging a door,
Right.
and it's disabled in 3D. So switch to the side view, and that's where you can place it. Okay, let me show you another. This one is called split surface, and a split surface will cut a surface in case you need to split a surface in a particular setting. For example, this is I think this is a sport field, and if you want to like make an independent surface of that from the field, you can split the surface. You enable split surface, then select the surface. You can do a rectangle. Yeah, I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna do it like this. I mean, I suppose I can rotate it. And I'm just eyeballing it. So assuming that is a new piece of surface, that is now an independent topo surface, and you can individually edit it. You can add more points. So instead of dealing with the entire thing, you have two adjacent topo surfaces. You can assign it different materials if you want. But technically, these are two independent topo surfaces, and these probably make sense when you're like when you want to split the surface by streets, sidewalks, parking lots, for example. I wouldn't recommend it early in the design process when civil is like changing a lot. I would start doing it when the design has settled and that you're ready to like apply materials or
So you can change that surface to like asphalt or something like that? Is that the idea?
yeah. So you see, I select this one and I can change this to I think the asphalt might be here. Or let's say one on this carpet. So now this is carpet.
Okay. And there's not another square surface underneath that. Like if you erase that, there'd be a hole.
Yeah, if I delete this, then it's gone. I have the demo of the the grading. Let me switch the filter here. Just say show new instead. Show new. There's a hole there.
Right.
So you recommend what is that, sub-region versus split, or sub-region is better?
Yeah, sub-regions, it's I haven't explained sub-region. Split surface will definitely create different topo surfaces, but under massing and site you also find sub-region, and a sub-region it's a boundary on top of the surface that will have a separate material. Right?
Oh, I see. So if you move the whole surface, it stays connected and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like a room.
Like a road, yeah. So I created, it's The difference between these two is that this is continue being part of the topo surface. It's
Right.
just that it has the ability to display a different material. Think of it, if you, in the wall command, for example, you can create split surfaces, which will have a different material. So the same
Right.
here, you can, again, massing and site subregion. Like if I want to display like a sidewalk in front of this, I could do like from here and then an offset of 5 feet. And then I close this with lines here. It's following the surface. Is not an independent region. It's still part of the topo surface. It's just have a different material. And so now I can, this is the region that I created. And I can assign it with a material, let's say concrete. Yeah, so back to your question, which is better? If Civil is going to be providing you the topo surface, I would use split surfaces to prevent it's a matter of what's, if I creating multiple topo surfaces have the problem that they can get the phase at some point. If I use split surfaces, it's still part of the same surfaces, it's just display a different material. But if I need to edit anything about that region, like independently edit some of the boundary points, then I would say go with the split surface instead.
Okay.
All right, last and not least is the site components and parking components. These are entourage that you bring into the project. They are part of the site category and they will snap to the topo surface only if you use them from here. And that include plants. Like if you click here, it will give you a list of all the trees. I'll bring, for example, a Lombardy poplar one, a big tree here. They follow the surface. I'm gonna do like these are deciduous trees, but you can load more. There are, I believe there are cars that comes with Revit, so you good. When you select it, they must be part of the planting category or the site category or the entourage category. So let's try. I'm going to insert load out of this family. And from here, let's see, like a bench. I don't know why my internet is very slow. So slow. Load from family. I'm going to load it manually. And then go to entourage van. And then go again to massing and site component. That is the van. And the van also, the insertion point snaps to the surface. In the last versions of Revit, this is a new thing. It provides you with the ability to represent or The trees, for example, have the ability to have a render appearances that are more photorealistic. But we'll talk more about that in a different class. This is the render appearance library that's associated with the Lombard poplar. You have all these different assets that the render appearance library was enhanced a lot in Revit 2023. We haven't made a lot of noise about it. Because it's not our business to create content, to create families for you, but it's our business to show you the assets that you could do. Like if you notice, there's far more people that that's now available out of the box. There's also a lot of new automobiles like this. These are these Chevrolet, GMCs, Hondas. I'm gonna make a major no here. I'm gonna replace this tree with the Chevrolet Colorado Crew. It's 40 feet. When I switch to realistic, it's gonna display the true RPC values, which RPC stands for realistic photo content. And it's this type of families which reflect light as if they were part of the this was natural light. And this type of new families are provided by Arc Vision. I don't know if you guys have heard it. Arc Vision is the proprietary company behind RPC, arcvision.com, and they provide a lot of different packages for architects, entourage, and they merge with Avail as well, which is like a content management service, cloud service. Anyway, you can use some of the assets that comes out of the box for entourage, or you can buy packages of products from ArcVision, the proprietary of RPC, realistic photo content, and expand your ability to create site plans, site renders. Anyway, that was a horrible thing I did. I go back to my trees. And yeah, and so that is the site tools. I am at time right now. There are new features and new capabilities on the site side in the new version of Revit. Stay tuned for those announcements in April 4, which is when our product hit the market big time. And yeah, hopefully this helps you guys on how to build the surfaces that anchors the building to the ground. Oftentimes, this is done by the architect for visualization purposes. Most landscape architects are a little shy from using Revit in their deliverables. I think with the new version of Revit coming out, that's a big group that will cater new functionalities. And I think the integration between landscape architects and designers are going to be is going to be much robust with the new release. So any questions so far? All right, so next class, next Monday, there's no class. We have a holiday, and my apologies for overseeing that. But we are going to move away from shared coordinates and topography, site design, and into more of the documentation. And so ways to report, ways to build keynotes. So the next class is all about keynotes. You probably have your own standards in the company, but I'll show you what's possible with a different type of data sets. I'll provide you with a model that's already preloaded with a lot of information. And I show you how Keynote works. There are different methods of displaying keynotes in construction plans. Some have advantage, some have disadvantage. But I'll go over all that next class. And then we're going to move more into like BIM management, revisions and revision controls. BIM Collaborate Pro is going to be a big topic. For this, I'm going to entitle you with a couple weeks seat of BIM Collaborate Pro for learning purposes. I wish I could give you a permanent one, but I can't. I'll show you how to create a model and share it on the cloud and discuss work sharing there. And then we'll focus on family creation. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Nice holiday on Monday, and I'll see you on Thursday, a week from today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks.